Welcome to Literacy Mindset, where education leaders from across the country share strategies for improving K-12 instruction today and preparing for the challenges of tomorrow. The stakes are high. Students are facing new academic demands, and educators are navigating an ever-changing educational landscape. Each episode, we explore the most effective literacy initiatives, innovative tools, and strategies that are reshaping education. Whether you're an educator looking to improve student outcomes or passionate about driving meaningful change in schools, the Literacy Mindset brings you the insights and strategies you need to stay ahead. This is where education leadership meets real-world impact.
Well, all right then. Welcome to the Literacy Mindset. This episode, I'm super excited to have Dr. Sharon Pepukayi from Talbot County Public Schools in Maryland, superintendent there. Dr. P, as maybe some of them refer to you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you. Clearly a unique perspective on across the Chesapeake Bay. I think maybe how they refer to it. So some interesting stuff. Probably a little bit cold this time of year.
Yes, it is.
But really excited to dive in. Maybe why don't we start there? Why don't you talk a little bit about Talbot County, the makeup of it, and give us some orientation to it.
So Talbot County, one of 24 counties in Maryland on the Eastern Shore. There's 9 counties on the Eastern Shore. So cross over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, drive maybe I'd say 40 minutes of that, less than that, and you will hit Talbot County, home of Frederick Douglass. Many people may not know. A lot of rich history here. Surrounded, we have the Miles River, watermen, crabs, oysters, hunters. So just very rich history, but then rich resources as well here in Talbot County. A lot of people do have second homes here because it is a nice vacation spot.
Okay.
Great seafood restaurants, but just a lot of activities that take place here as well. Nice bedroom community, but world-class, I would say, businesses and education I will put on there.
Love it.
That's our mark.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, about how big is the district?
We have 8 schools here
Okay.
in Talbot County, a little over 4,700 students. So small but mighty.
Well, that's exciting. Tell us a little bit about you. I know you have a background on literacy. We like talking about literacy on this podcast. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that.
So I am a 30-plus year educator. Always knew I wanted to be a teacher. My mom was a teacher. She was middle school math. But I knew I wanted to be with the younger kids. And so I, jumped right in, went to college, of course, you do all the courses for education, and then I student taught kindergarten. So that was probably my first introduction to literacy, surrounded with picture books. I loved reading myself. So then 5th grade, 4th grade, 2nd grade was a reading coach, reading intervention, summer school, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
Fast forward, I jumped into leadership, and then came back here to the shore just 3 years ago. So I graduated out of Talbot County,
Oh,
St. Michael's High, St. Michael's Saints. And so I've been here for 3 years. So it's exciting to be from here,
Right.
to have gone through the system and now leading the system and being able to capture, and it's a plug, we are actually capturing the data of all the Talbot County graduates who are now in the system teaching. So we're collecting that data right now. We're going to do some really neat things with that. But it is nice. Great team that I have, and we're really leaning in and digging in so that our students can be able to have many options when they graduate.
Okay. Oh, well, that is great. I'm excited to dive in and talk about some of those things. So let's get started maybe with a pedagogical lens
Okay.
first. You walk into a kindergarten classroom as a teacher, and you see, obviously through your schooling too, but
Mhm.
what is it about reading, learning how to read, that is so hard?
I think because we look at words and we always want to have print-rich environments.
Sure.
You know, but we look at words, and I do think we look at them without thinking there is a process and a breakdown of the phonics and the phonemic awareness that goes along with sounding out words, right?
Okay.
And well, the science of reading. I was going to say there's a science to it.
There's a science of it. Some might call
There's
it
a
the
science to it.
science.
So
Okay.
that's what I think. That's the difficulty, because we want to jump in, but also we want to, and case in point, I was in a kindergarten class today, and we want to jump in, we meaning the adults. We want to jump in to correct what we hear or what we see. So we want to fast forward, really warp speed the
Got it.
learning of that student, knowing that we started once
Right.
in kindergarten and had to go through the steps. So we can't, fast forward that learning and those experiences that we're giving kids. So let them have that productive struggle
Got it. Yeah.
to learn, all that goes into vocabulary. I mean, that's a huge component as well. Being able to know what words mean, where do we see them and hear them. So all of that.
Sure. And even because, we learn to speak the language before we learn to read it, right? And sometimes we make assumptions about how much maybe somebody could read because they can't speak, but there is still a direct instruction. You got to learn phonemes. You have to
Right.
understand the sounds of the language or phonetic language, right? So that's probably one of the things that plays into it.
Correct. And I think I go back to my learning in college on how to be a teacher that would be teaching reading. And I don't recall a deep dive into the work.
Interesting, right?
Yep, not as much as I think now. Now it's kind of, coming back full circle to do the 2.0 version of it. But, we just had the basics. So then I try to figure out my own ways as a new teacher back then
Yeah.
to teach reading.
What do you find can happen in the learning of reading skills? Do you find maybe it's different in Talbot versus other counties where you've been? Do you find that there are specific skills that sometimes kids struggle with more than others? Is it kind of a variety across the map? What's been your experience?
I would say it is a variety depending on the student. We know that each student is uniquely different, and so I think it just depends what strengths they have in what areas.
Yeah.
Whereas some students, they come from a very literature-rich home, so they're coming in the door already reading or knowing letters, recognizing letters, spelling of their name. That's one of the first things,
Right.
and we look at that. So some come in already with that. Some can maybe give you one letter,
Right.
and that's it. So I think it's a wide variety
Got it.
of what I've seen.
So some of it are just simply factors that happen even outside of the classroom
Correct.
that can contribute to where maybe different gaps, because it's the asset that you're bringing, right? You have different assets that you're bringing to the table.
Correct.
Learning how to leverage those. Okay, let's take a step back then and think about it from a leadership standpoint. How do you, knowing that you've been working on this reading side of things maybe for 30 plus years, how do you make sure that Talbot County feels the urgency or sort of I like to refer to the mindset of literacy, right? How do you make sure that literacy is a big deal?
So I think I always say, I take John Maxwell's quote, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so I think it's the leaders in the spaces, because just because I'm the superintendent, I'm not the leader of everything. I try to build the leaders within the organization.
Right.
So I look for who are my people that are immersed in that literacy, who can lead, who's the person that's going to lead my literacy coaches.
Right.
Who are my literacy coaches that are going to help my teachers?
Yep.
So it's the layers that I make sure that I have to create for the work to be done.
Okay.
And so when I'm looking from a leader's lens, I'm making sure that those leaders are well versed in the research, and that it's research-based practices that we're implementing, and that they're rolling out whatever we need to do in a very systematic way, and providing the support. So it's kind of like a push, but also coming back with support on the back end.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, drill down a little bit into the research-based practices you described. That, like making sure. How do you make sure that these are research-based practices?
So that's a scheduling thing. So that's for us. We knew we wanted every teacher, K-5, to be trained in our letters training,
Okay.
which is something we're using. So we had to then make sure we built in the professional learning days for that to happen. We wanted to make sure the people that were doing the work, we were doing it effectively, but then on the back end to be able to get feedback, because this is sometimes that's missed, feedback after the professional learning is done. How was
Mm,
it? And then what is going to be our cycle of going around to see it in action, to be able to give feedback to that
right.
work? So it's, all these pieces and parts you have to put together. It's not just a one and done, because if you're scaling this across K through 5, every K through 5 teacher in the system, we need to, first of all, explain the why, but then
Right.
follow up with the accountability.
Yeah, no, I love that, especially as you think about developing and creating a culture.
Mm.
Sometimes it's easy to think that it might be just words on a wall, right?
Yes.
It might be quotes by John Maxwell. Like it could be plenty of things, but the reality is that it's what the it's what the teachers see you do, right?
Yes.
So you're establishing the culture because that's what's done, and
Yes.
and, and when you do it over and over again, love that, love hearing that.
Mhm.
Okay, well then tell us a little bit about the framework for intervention that you have. You
Mm.
mentioned literacy coaches or reading coaches.
Yes.
How do you
So,
establish that?
so I am a firm believer of a coaching model.
Okay.
We use impact cycle, but any coaching model that you have. So we have literacy coaches, but then we also have new teacher coaches.
Ooh,
So these
okay.
coaches are people that do not have kids, meaning they can devote their entire day to coaching.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so and that's just an investment that we know we needed to make. So while you have a literacy coach that's going in specifically with literacy, you also have that new teacher who's meeting with a coach that's getting good practices of just classroom
Yeah.
management, lesson
Yeah.
planning. But here's the thing, the new teacher coach and the literacy coach have to talk as well as the building principal. So you
Yeah.
have to have the
The
cadence of
coordinated.
cycles where, yeah, so you can't have one person saying one message, another person saying another message, and then the person receiving it totally confused. So I think that's a huge aspect of the work that you do, is making sure you're having the coaches there and you're not just plopping this new information onto a teacher and say, good luck with that.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Well, speaking of good luck with that, in our pre-production time, you referenced an emphasis on high quality instructional materials, and that
Yes.
you have recently rolled out that. How's that going, first of all? And I'm guessing it's not a good luck piece, but maybe walk us through structurally how that gets rolled
Yeah.
out.
So, um, with any, and I've been on the other side when you have these new initiatives come out in a school district. Hey, we're doing this new thing. What we do is we try to have a team of teachers that were kind of like, I call them your Pied Pipers. So they're the ones that are going to say,
Good.
hey, I'll take the materials home this summer. I'll look at it. I'll be those, ambassadors of the work so that in each building you have people who have already been using this for some
Right.
months. So then the other teachers can go. So that's the first step we did,
Okay.
after we vetted other materials and
And your
decided,
Pied Pipers. Okay.
yes, we have our Pied Pipers.
Got it.
And then we got all the materials out to everyone. But then what takes place are those literacy coaches in the building make sure that if a teacher has a question or an issue, they can go to a literacy coach, but they can also go to the Pied Pipers in that building
Mm,
who can say, you know what, I know exactly what you're saying because I did that in that lesson last month. Here's how I figured it out, right? So that's the first part. The
okay.
second part are our walkthroughs in being able to walk through to say, do we have the actual word wall up or the materials that goes with,
Right.
the whole
We make sure
curriculum.
the classroom looks and feels like we want it to.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And so it's the walkthrough practices from the literacy coaches because we have ELA supervisors, so
Right. Right.
different
Right.
layers. So they all go out, do the walkthroughs, come back, calibrate the data, and we keep going. But we also get feedback from the teachers because maybe it's a blind spot we have
Sure.
that they're saying, maybe if we did this instead of this. So we take all of that feedback together and just make sure we're staying with the pacing. And then the back end is looking at the data. And so right now we do Dibbles and MAP, but that's really our only common assessment.
Okay.
We haven't said, okay, we're going to look at this benchmark curriculum unit 2. Everybody turn in your unit 2, right? We haven't gotten that granular yet, but
Okay.
that's next.
Got it.
That's next.
Yeah. Okay. Allowing for data to inform instructional practices.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about technology. Does technology play a role with you guys and how you're rolling this out, and in what way?
So technology, I would, magic wand, I would like to see students working harder than our adults. But right now, technology, at least for our younger students, is just really, Schoology is a little harder because we have a new learning management system. So for our younger students, they're not really on it that much. So
Okay.
that they don't use, the only technology they use is the main platform, Clever, to be able to access to the other things. And so it may be like a one-off intervention here or there, but not like a real tight system. And I would say the instructional practices. So a teacher might use a certain platform to get the information across,
Got it.
but not really a student, using the technology for their instruction, I would say.
Got it.
So
Okay.
that's on my list to beef up. Because I do think it could really be a value add during the day for our students.
Yeah. And so today, do you work with sort of a curriculum team to push out these tools? Do you let teachers and principals kind of find what works best for them in a decentralized way? Kind of describe how we got the high quality instructional core program, but
Correct.
what about the other stuff that happens in the building?
So we are centralizing it. I think prior it was decentralized, and so now we're bringing it all back together so that I do have a 9-member cabinet, but then, those are made up of all the departments. So I have an executive director of teaching and learning, and so that person then takes all of her supervisors of the different content, and they talk about those research-based practices, because what we want to do is to make sure any classroom I walk in any elementary school, I see these components, I see these practices taking place. And so that's what we're deciding. What are going to be those practices that I can walk in any building, or any guest can walk in any building and see those things. Right now, I do walkthroughs with my board members. We actually have one coming up so that they can actually see if they are passing a budget as a board member for a new ELA curriculum. I want them to be able to see this is what, this is what the money, this is what you spent your money on. So it's really good because our teachers can then explain the different components of that curriculum.
Right.
This section is for our ML students. This is the intervention component. So it's really been good for them to see it. So now when we're in our board meetings, they can say, oh, I really saw the stories. We went from each classroom and everybody was on the same story. We went to the ML intervention room and they even had their story. So it's really nice seeing the alignment of our money, how it's connected to our materials, and then next step will be our practices.
Got it. Okay, you said ML intervention. That's multi-language learners.
Yes.
Is what you're talking about there, right?
Exactly,
So
yes.
you've had an increase in that population.
Yes, we
actually
have
kind
an
of talked about
increase.
that.
We do. Easton Elementary School, I would say 50% are ML learners.
Okay.
It's my largest elementary school. It is a community school. And
Okay.
so that means they give an assessment to see what the needs are, and we get wraparound services. But we really are looking at the staff support that we can give, because what I hear from teachers, and I talk to teachers a lot, is they feel like students are, a new student may come, they're coming to the classroom, they're sitting there, and the teacher feels like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out how can we come up with almost like a mini welcome center. We've seen other models in other counties where the whole family comes and we kind of say, okay, what are all the things you need? So that we can have that ready before we place a student into the grade, into the lesson, because maybe what we think they need is different after we spend some time and really dig in a little deeper and take the time for that.
Okay. That's great.
Mhm.
Well, let's stay on technology for a
Technology.
second,
Okay.
and that takes us into the AI world a
Oh
little
yeah.
bit. Do you have systems, policies, frameworks in place right now for AI? What are you guys doing?
So we have I'm not gonna say task force, team that right now is putting together AI guidance because it's
Guys,
there. It's there. I know staff are using it, but what we want to do is just put the guardrails up
okay,
so that we can have some kind of guidance. We already have a technology policy. So this will just be couched under the technology policy, and it'll be, the do's and don'ts, the safeguards, and how can it be used
sure.
effectively and efficiently to be able to really get some things done for our students.
So you are embracing it as an opportunity for
Absolutely. Yeah.
versus maybe blocking it as
Yes.
a risk to cheating.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yep.
Uh, Broader technology. Do you have policies or frameworks in place to limit distractions? You talked about having
Oh
sort of
yes.
one-to-one, so maybe you have Chromebooks or something like that. But do you do anything for personal phones or personal devices inside of
I'm
buildings?
glad you asked that because this year, like 2 months ago, we just rolled out in one of our middle schools the Yonder Pouch.
You did roll out yonder pouches. Okay.
We did. And so I was just at that middle school today and I was asking, we're going to have a board presentation next month on what they're seeing so far with it. I haven't, like, my door isn't being kicked in by any students or parents yet. Of course, the parents are probably liking it, but my schools are telling me that it's the parents that are really texting their students during the day.
Fair.
But how it works, it just started December. It just started
Okay.
December, so it's only been like a month. They did a slow roll, so they did it a couple weeks in November. But anyway, students walk in, the whole school, 6 through 8. They all have a pouch, their phones, earbuds, everything goes in the pouch. Locks up. They cannot have access to it until the end of the day where they press it against a magnet, it pops open, and then they can get their stuff out. I have heard that it's less distractions, and I even talked to some students, and even though they probably wouldn't say it around their friends,
I
they
like
said it to me that, you know what, I am paying attention more, and I am like hearing the teacher, and I don't feel like this phone is here. So the older kids, they'll keep it real with you, when you talk to them one on one, not in front of their friends, of course.
of course. We have to keep status quo and all of the social perceptions. But yeah, no, I like that. I do think it's a challenging thing, and so us as a technology provider into
Mhm,
school, sometimes I like to give the opportunity
mhm,
for my guests to push on us, right? What would
mhm.
you like to see us as technology providers
Mm.
do to more effectively help with maybe limiting distractions, maybe
Uh,
making teachers' lives easier? Do you have things that you think about sometimes that you're like, man, Jeff, couldn't you guys just get better at this?
that's a good question. I have student advisory groups, grades 6 through 12, and I'm constantly talking to them about the what ifs and what could we do better.
Sure.
I think with the phone, if it was something that was something that's going to help them maybe get an assignment done
Mm,
or learn something where, because I think for them it's social, but I think if it pivoted to, oh, we need this to turn something in or
right.
to get a discussion going. I think, it would take it away from the social aspect, even though they would still use it, but they would still see the educational value in it.
Fair.
Um, you know, but right now it's just social. That's all I see right now is really the social aspect of it.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Um, do you do you work closely with well, not closely necessarily with the State Department in Maryland, but like
Hmm.
what is it
We
about
do.
policy maybe that Maryland is doing at a state level that affects how you guys think about literacy initiatives or just
Mm.
broader curriculum decisions?
Great question. So in the state of Maryland, there's something called the Maryland Blueprint.
Okay.
And so it is legislation that basically has 5 different components. And so within those components, there is a literacy thread depending on like the first component is around early childhood. Second is around teachers, teacher quality. Third is around college and career readiness. Fourth is around resources. So you could probably have literacy going through,
Yep.
a few of those. And then fifth is about the accountability. How do you measure all that stuff? So right now, all 24 districts are turning in plans, submitting plans. We had to turn in a K-3 literacy plan to the state. We have to have professional learning plans. So where it comes to the state, it's very tightly connected in that the blueprint and our State Department is saying, like we just have been talking about, professional learning that's taking place. We are sending people every month to the state for statewide professional learning training. So it's good work, but for us, we just want some alignment. Maybe saying, okay, what are you doing? This is what we'd like to see. How can we mesh the two?
Right.
I think we were in a good place because everyone had to train their teachers in science of reading. That came out from the state. We had already done it, so we were like, yes,
You're like,
check, yeah. We're so it's that level of guidance, or this is what you need to do from the state that we do get, on a regular basis.
That's good. I like seeing the effective collaboration between state and district on that front.
Yeah, and we have a new state superintendent, Dr. Carrie Wright, and so she's really big on literacy, which is why she had everyone get trained in the science of reading. So it's exciting that she is about growth. She's about students starting early, getting in with literacy. So
good. That's my kind of state superintendent right there. I'll
yes,
tell you that.
yes.
All right. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure for me, Sharon. I'll leave you with this as a final question.
Okay.
What do you see changing or shifting or evolving 5 to 10 years from now? I always like to point people to the future. As a leader in districts, vision is an important part of that. So kind of give us what are we looking to out into the future?
I would say student efficacy.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because I envision students, us being more clear and transparent as to the why and the what we're teaching. So much that they talk about it themselves, right? They not only talk about it with their peers, but then they come back, right?
Okay.
So the high school come down to the elementary to then say, you're going to be learning X. This is why, and this is the impact it had on me. So that the adults aren't going to be the ones out there with the pom-poms, championing education. It will be the students themselves championing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what do you think is going to be driving that the most?
I think it'll be the opportunities that are going to be made to them. And with my rose-colored glasses, I'm saying that there's going to be many more opportunities opened up to them, so that they'll be busting down the doors to go tell their younger selves,
Right.
you need to do this.
That's excellent. I look forward to that. That sounds like a good future. I like the vision, and we'll do what we can to help work towards that. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for inviting me, Jeff. This has been really nice.
Well, it's been great, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found today's conversation insightful, be sure to subscribe to Literacy Mindset. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube for updates, resources, and to join the conversation. Have a topic you'd like us to explore? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time.